Welcome to the weekly piece on the Parsha from Torah Giants on Chumash by Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Goodman.
In this week's Parsha, Parshas Re'eh, we are commanded in Perek Yud Gimel, Pasuk Aleph, that concerning all of the mitzvos that Hashem has given us, lo sosef alav velo sigra mimenu, do not add to them and do not subtract from them. The question that is raised by the Torah Tamima is that earlier on in Parshas Ve'etchanan, we are told, Lo sosifu al hadavar asher anochi mitzaveh eschem velo sigra'u mimenu. Do not add to this matter that I have told you, and do not detract from it. So the question is, why do we need a repetition of this commandment to not modify the number of mitzvos in the Torah? The Torah Tamima, quoting the Vilna Gaon, says that when we mention it earlier in Parshas Ve'etchanan, it is discussing the prohibition to add or subtract from the total number of mitzvot that we have been commanded. Whereas here, in our Parsha, Parshas Re'eh, we are being told not to modify an existing mitzvah. For example, tzitzis require 5 strings or 3 strings. A different approach is taken by Rav Shaul Mortira in his Sefer Give Us Sha'ul. He adds a second question. If you are already forbidding adding to the number of mitzvos, so I understand that you can't modify the number of mitzvos in the Torah, why do you then have to give me a follow-on prohibition of subtracting from the number of mitzvos? He answers that subtracting from the mitzvos is an explanation of why you can't add to the mitzvos. Because once you add to the number of mitzvos, the message is out there that the number of mitzvos can be modified. And eventually, even though you think you are adding practices, it will eventually lead to practices being ignored and left out. Indeed, the Gemara in Sanhedrin, Chavtes Amud Aleph, tells us, Kol HaMosif Goreya. Anybody who seeks to add something to the Torah will eventually cause something to be lost from the Torah. He also takes the early church to task. The early church had 4 core teachings, namely that poverty was to be praised, a poor man was a virtuous man, celibacy was to be praised, the idea of turning the other cheek, even in the face of aggression, loving thy enemy and thy friend, and martyrdom for the love of God, not just the 3 core mitzvos that we believe one should be prepared to die for. So he says here that in our Parsha, in Re'eh, when it says the singular, the mitzvah is given in the singular, it means to remind us that we are part of a people. And as part of a people, we cannot hope to impose things upon ourselves which will make us holier than our fellow Jew. We should realize that we are all one Am Kadosh, and we are all bound by the same number of mitzvahs, which we can neither add to nor subtract from. Shabbat Shalom.